Good evening, friends. This is a very special video which I am making, and this video is on the passion. What has dwelled into me for the last so many years. When I've been reading these cantonment laws, when I subjected myself to law in 2015 to pursue my degree. This video is regarding a very small subject which relates mostly to the environment word. Environment is not only about air, water, or standards of living. It even goes down to the word what our rights are. Environment is that we people in these cantonments live like slaves. So what is our environment? What are our living standards? I remember a thesis being done by Praveena Jhangi from Mau cantonment. And she had done it for Mau in exclusivity, Mr. Basani's daughter. And there she had said that, we in civil areas, especially in these cantonments, are clustered. We people are living over and above each other. In a minimum required area, the FAR which has been given has not been worked out. So let us talk today of this passion, and I'll spill out. I may speak something which may not be liked by some people. By meaning of environment, it not just alone is about air pollution, but the pollution with which we residents have been infected or neglected towards our rights. We are insane to companionship. We don't want to share or learn or even adjudicate ourselves on our rights to land or ownership of these so-called old grants. May indeed be living almost with insufferable burden. We may also be an ugly sore, a blight on the community, which robs it of its charm, which makes it a place from which men turn. The misery of educating or housing may despoil a community as an open sewer, a sewage tank, which may ruin a running river or a waterbed. So our situation is what has been defined in these paragraphs. None of us, ask yourself, ask your neighbor. This is maybe my 150th video or so on. The concept of public welfare is broad and inclusive. The value it represents are spiritual, as well as physical, aesthetic, as well as monetary. It is within the power of the legislative to determine that the community should be beautiful, as well as healthy, spacious, and as well as clean and educated. It should be well balanced, carefully in knowing their rights. Are we a society like that? No. These statutes which are in force in your and my country, India, or even abroad, reserves open space. That is a space for you. Space for, in environmentally, if I talk, could be parks, playgrounds, water bodies, and in my individual capacity or my communal capacity, it could be my education, to my rights, my knowledge, my honesty towards the law and the rule of the land. This all would eliminate misery of disreputable conditions caused by cantonments urbanizations. Our civil areas are overcrowded, talk of your cant. which spreads disease. It even raises crime, immorality. Women are not safe. So reservation of these open areas or an open mind is a universally recognized and a legitimate exercise of a statutory power who has to rationalize between the protection of an open mind and of a locality which gets ill affected due to urbanization and overclustering. But what is happening in these cantonments? We ourselves are encroaching open lands in the vicinity of our properties. And the government, in the name of development, has encroached upon every open land where your and my children or myself at one age could go and play. Any reasonable government or legislative attempt bearing a rational relationship to a permissible state objective in economic and social planning will be respected by us, meaning by residents of individual cantonments. A duly approved scheme prepared in accordance with the provisions of the Cantonment Act is a legitimate attempt on part of any of government and a statutory authority to ensure a open mind place which is free of corruption, malified intentions, coercive measures, where our children can grow in an open world. They are not suppressed with the feeling of being inhabitants of these cantonments. That fresh breath air which we as cantonment owners at times talk. We enjoy this nature in our huge bungalows. It has to be given to us. These provisions are meant to guarantee a quiet and a healthy atmosphere to suit mine and your family needs of an individual person of a particular cantonment. But is that happening? It's not. We people are living all around 24/7 with the scare. What will happen? When will this happen? What notice will we get? Whom will we consult? So we are so scared, petrified. We are not living with an open mind. For the aforementioned judicial precedents. Now, what does the judiciary? It becomes apparent that the board need to be converted into municipal authorities. We have to not just excise civil area, we have to abolish these cantonment boards. We have to simply abolish the Cantonment Act and bring municipalization into it. And state subjects and state municipalities doing well. You have Delhi Municipal Corporation, you have BMC, Bombay Municipal, and they're doing better than these cantonments. Don't they have funds? Don't they have their own budgets? Everything can be done, provided the government realizes all this. How do we do this? Government is actually taking away all our open space and converting them into commercial lands. I remember there was an act of 1861 called the Ponds and Diggies Act. Every cantonment, at least mine in Ambala, we had 14 diggies. Those are called water reservoirs. We don't have one today. In the name of making a Subhash Park or a bus stand or, a market, a sabji market, a grain market, all diggies have been encroached upon. Army has ruined my cantonment. What are we doing? I would just quote a word. In fact, open space is our lungs. They are the lungs of the city. If these lungs are not there, then the citizen of the city can have no better life. So we need to wake up. we need to understand what has been downline the judiciary, what has been downline with the environment, why we people are not able to live with an open space. Friends, we need to. I'll quote what Lord Denning in his book, The Discipline of Law, has or had expressed. Now here I must ask all of you to note that those were alt cases where an ordinary citizen sought one of the prerogative remedies of the criteria or prohibitions. These are available against government, department, or any person or body set up by a statutory authority affecting the rights of an individual, and I have shown full hope that any responsible citizen has a sufficient interest such as to entitle him to be heard if he complains that the law is not being enforced or is not as per the present requirement. This is what, friends, this is what I am trying. For the past so many years, this crusade, what Lord Denning had said, is being worked at. I'm trying to educate, I'm trying to give that open mind, I'm trying to bring you out of your shackles. We don't even know, I remember people didn't even know what GLR meant. People even today have not seen their full volume GLR. Forget about 1937, forget about 1925 GLR. So, I'll quote another remark by Justice Flex Frankfurter, said in the 30s. He's comparing, are relevant even in 21st century, when a developing nation is still under a stage of development. So we need to idealize ourselves. It is the ideal to feel either blind resentment against government of commission or sterile longing for the golden past that never was profound new forces, call for a new social invention or fresh adaptation of old experience. The great society, with its pre-meeting influence of technology, large-scale industry and progressive urbanization, presses its problem the history of political and social liberty, admonish us of its lessons. Nothing less is our task than fashioning instruments and process at once adequate for social needs and the protection of individual freedom. So even, Justice Flex compared the two and it's quoted this in a judgment. So this is a wake-up call. I can only hammer you if you understand. So this explosion within the cantonment resident has to take place. If it doesn't happen, we people are not going to get educated at all. The explosion of grave concern for environment and education at any private and government level is a great political phenomena of recent times. The sporadic and unorganized struggle of non-educated stragglers, the wildlife and wilderness wanderers have identified the conservation movement of these laws and are focusing their intentions, denuded to the vanishing rules, laws and books from our desk. The movement has become the crusade of anyone almost everywhere for a livable environment in these cantonments. There is an increasing awareness that in cleansing up our cantonment, if not in wilderness, lies the preservation of my rights of my ownership. Retouring the laws for cantonments to the natural state is a cause beyond party and beyond factions. It has become a common cause of particular concern to young inhabitants because they, more than us, will reap the grim consequences of our failure to enact on the programs which are needed now if we are to prevent disaster later. An enormous obligation which we owe to the posterity is clean air, water, greenery and open space in these cantonments. These ought to be elevated to the status both right of every citizen with ownership. There's so many sayings, so many quotes which motivated me, which I'm speaking today. When I used to read these law books, these Bibles, which were given to me by my Guruji, Robert Renyo, a professor of political science, stated, but worse than corporation, finding is a subversion of government agencies to the role of environment exploiters. The public interest, which should be championed by the agencies, with their regulation is ignored or perverted as the iron tangle of special interest, bureaucrats and committees, chairpersons from their unholy alliance. This means that a public consequence is entrusted or volunteered to public interest groups, a sacrificial burden of weighty dimensions is the plight of residents who are gagged between these officials and legal luminaries. The outstanding feature of modern civilization is shifting the burden of defense of public interest to civic volunteers, organized associations and groups. They must dig into their pockets to hold their group together. They must respond to call for protest, launch petitions, drives, stimulate letters, writing, campaigns, conduct rallies, attend hearings and in journal, mortgage the time of their personal lives to an unprecedented extent. Keepers of social conscience, they express themselves openly and aggressively. When they record of the movement of residents of my and your cantonment is finally registered, the emphasis will be on the new breed of citizen if fostered, and it will contrast mightily with the sordid tragedy of the board. Rooms where the scoff at do-gooders and belittle nobility of purpose. Friends, please, this also says that there have to be local association, chapters, associations. Listen, join hands. Let's be together. I'll continue this video in my next episode. Thank you. Good day.